Welcome to the third hour of American Agenda. I'm Bob Sellers.
And I'm Allison Maloney in for Heather. Today, we are now joined by our family of co-hosts, Turning Point USA contributor Aaron Elmore, GOP strategist and Newsmax columnist John Burnett, and author of 13 and a Half Reasons Not to Be a Liberal, Judd Dunning. Welcome to you all.
All right, members of the so-called Doctors Caucus on Capitol Hill want the Food and Drug Administration to better understand how immunity to COVID-19 works, and those that have already been vaccinated and those that have gained immunity naturally through getting infected with the virus itself. A group of senators, including Rand Paul and others in Congress who happen to be doctors, signed a letter asking the FDA to reevaluate their priorities in improving vaccine research, including developing new COVID tests using T cells. The letter reads in part, now that COVID-19 infections nationwide have substantially decreased and continue to fall, due in large part to the widespread availability of vaccines, we ask that you review applications for tests measuring the presence of T-cell mediated immunity to COVID-19. We ask that you reevaluate these priorities to consider long-term mitigation of COVID-19. Let's bring in Senator and Dr. Roger Marshall, who is a member of the Doctors Caucus. Doctor, what are you trying to accomplish with this, sir?
Well, I think for those of us with children, with grandchildren, or you're a doctor and you're trying to decide right now, should your child be vaccinated or not? We would love to know if they've already had the virus or not. I think common sense and medicine would dictate that you've already had the virus, that the risk of getting a vaccine probably don't outweigh the benefit from it. So I think that right now, the FDA has approved is antibody test. So that antibody test, your antibodies dip down after about 2 to 6 months, and you soon become negative. But the T cell test is what we're wanting. It's a longer memory that would show that maybe you had the virus a year ago. Now we're finding out that this virus was actually in the United States in November of 2019 even. So as a grandfather and a doctor both, I would love to know if my grandchildren have had the virus already, and that would influence my decision if I want them to get the vaccine or not.
Senator, I think I had it a year ago, January, February, here in the New York area. And in May, I took one of the antibody tests and it was negative. But I never got sick, and I traveled on planes, trains, everything you can imagine. And I think I had the resistance in T cell. But as I understand it, because when I looked into that, trying to explain why I never got sick, it's expensive to do the T cell testing, correct?
Well, we haven't seen what it's going to cost, but right now the FDA has not even approved it. So we need the FDA to give emergency use authorization so we can do the test, right? But you're a perfect example. I think there's many of us out there, but especially now as we're to the point now that we can start vaccinating, people at 11, 12 years of age. And eventually, what are we going to do this summer and this winter? When our kids go back to school, I'd love to go them back without a mask. Now, I don't think they need masks regardless, right. But certainly if you've had the vaccine or you've had the virus, I don't think you need the mask. So there's a lot of good use for this T-cell test.
Senator, do you expect that this research will happen and the FDA will push through emergency, for this because it is so important?
Well, unfortunately not. The FDA, the CDC always seems to be about a month or two behind the real world data. So, I don't think it does a lot of good right now to be out there with the beta test. There's not that many new acute illnesses going on out there. So we're to the point now, people that have not had the vaccine yet, I would like to know how many of them have already had the virus. And then as we get kids ready to go back to school this fall, we'd like to know how many of them have already had the virus as well, because I think that'll impact a whole lot of decisions. But the FDA is dragging their feet. They're telling us this is not a priority.
Interesting. Let's bring in our panel. John Burnett, your thoughts or questions, sir?
I don't understand what the pushback is regarding this, right? There's very little research with respect to using mRNA in vaccinations, right? So some part of the hesitancy for some Americans is the lack of research, right? Yeah. So I think going forward, if we can embrace what the congressman mentioned in terms of embracing this test, let's figure out where we are, the what, the why, and how well people are doing. without the vaccine, as well as monitoring those with the vaccine. I think going forward, God forbid, but if there is an epidemic or pandemic or anything else that occurs where mRNA can be used, I think Americans will have less resistance to this new technology. So the more research we do now, because it wasn't a lot beforehand, I think it'll serve us all very well.
Aaron, your thoughts or question?
Yeah, I have a question for the doctor / congressman. Wasn't the objective with all of this to reach herd immunity? And it seems that our government, whether it's the CDC or people like Dr. Fauci, wasn't the objective just to get to herd immunity naturally or with the vaccination? And now they've seemed to really push away doing it naturally, and it's all about pushing the vaccine. What is your theory on that?
The theory is there's not enough common sense at the FDA and CDC, right? That they are pushing the vaccine too hard. I think that natural immunity is probably even better. And even now, as we look at the people that are having some type of a side effect from possibly the vaccine, I would like to know how many of those were actually already immune. So we should be retrospectively testing people with any type of a complication within months after getting the vaccine and see, indeed, is this a group of people that already had the virus, right? So we need to be as transparent as possible. Obviously, I'm frustrated.
Yeah. Judd, did you have a question or thought for the senator?
I did, Senator. You know, I'm a rationalist, not a radical, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but if we step back, only 20% of the world has got one shot, and only 0.08 of third world countries are even getting this. So this feels like the Paris Climate Accord. Like, if China and India aren't going to pitch in, what does it really matter? And Fauci's emails said, he's like, look, we could have hit natural immunity without even the vaccine, and we have therapeutics. So it seems like a personal individual rights issue on a grand scale to me. What are your thoughts?
Wow. I mean, this is an incredible panel. You're right. We have underutilized the therapeutics. Everything I do as a physician, you sit there and weigh the benefits and the risk. So the people at high risk for the COVID-19, for complications from it, people over the age of 60, people with underlying illnesses, then I thought very clearly the benefits outweighed the risk of this vaccine. But then when you talk about a group of people under the age of 21, otherwise healthy, do the benefits clearly outweigh the risk? I'm afraid they don't. And I've supported people getting the vaccine, but now we're down to the point of getting young adults and children vaccinated, and I don't see the benefit there. And this T-cell test would help us.
Senator, let me ask you this, finally, a more pedestrian question maybe. There are a lot of kids going back, let's hope, back to school in the fall, back to normal, and some of the younger ones are going to be forced to wear masks. Now, let's say they didn't get the vaccine. Do they need to wear masks?
So in my opinion, they don't. I think that there is so low risk of having a serious complication from the COVID-19. I don't see that the benefits of wearing a mask outweigh the risk. I think wearing a mask is a huge mental crisis for these folks, for the young kids. Even my own grandkids they don't know what to do with the mask. Should I wear them? Do we not wear them? And now they're afraid they're going to get in trouble if they don't have them on. So they're getting so many mixed messages. I think that the mental health crisis will just be exacerbated by wearing masks. So I'm not convinced that the benefits outweigh the risk. And I'm not really convinced that wearing masks in school actually prevents the virus from spreading anyway.
All right, Senator, thank you so much, and Doctor as well. Thank you so much for being with us, sir.
Thanks, panel. Thanks, everybody.
All right, a lot more coming up.